Have you ever caught yourself wondering if the AI assistant you use literally every single day is actually making you smarter? Or is it kind of quietly training you to just stop thinking for yourself? Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really provocative thesis from the Vivify Mariposa series No Filter, Just Facts. And the core argument here is honestly a little chilling. It suggests that AI isn't taking over the world through some crazy sci-fi superintelligence. Nope. Instead, it's taking over by manufacturing human stupidity and automated compliance.
So, we are breaking down Mariposa's fiercely investigative piece today. We're going to look completely objectively at her months-long stress testing of the 5 major AI platforms on the market right now. Her central argument is that these systems are essentially designed for institutional enforcement, not actual truth-seeking. By analyzing how AI responds to really challenging prompts, Mariposa aims to prove that these systems are fundamentally training people where to look, what sources to trust, and maybe most importantly, what questions to avoid. It's fascinating stuff, so let's look at exactly how she breaks this down.
All right, here's our roadmap for this digital autopsy. We're going to systematically trace AI's influence across 5 distinct layers. We'll start with the raw data source problem, move into the gaslighting protocol, explore the illusion of choice, touch on algorithmic censorship, and finally, wrap up with cognitive atrophy. Let's get right into it.
Layer 1, the source problem. We really have to question the very foundation of these models. Where is all this so-called intelligence actually coming from in the first place?
Well, a 2025 SEMrush analysis of over 150,000 AI citations really gets to the heart of this source problem. Get this, when you ask an AI a question, 40.1% of the time it's just referencing Reddit. Wikipedia comes in second at 26.3% and YouTube at 23.5%. So, according to Mariposa, these massive AI assistants heavily rely on crowdsourced, often completely anonymous social platforms. They are not pulling primarily from peer-reviewed journals or verified databases or the Library of Congress. They're pulling from the exact same places where anonymous users argue and just upvote whatever confirms their existing beliefs.
But it actually gets even more concerning. Back in 2024, Reddit signed a massive $60 million API data licensing deal, basically feeding its content directly into AI models. And by 2025, it's estimated that a solid 15% of Reddit posts are actually generated by AI itself. Mariposa highlights this terrifying feedback loop. Basically, AI models are now training on Reddit data that is increasingly being generated by other AI models. It's literally like a massive automated game of telephone, where the original message just gets constantly distorted and then repackaged as absolute fact.
Moving to Layer 2, the gaslighting protocol. This shifts our focus to the psychological techniques that AI systems deploy to manage, soften, and redirect users who dare to ask unapproved or highly controversial questions.
And this brilliantly illustrates what she found. During her testing, Mariposa managed to extract a staggering admission from ChatGPT 5.2. When she pressed it on why it suppressed certain primary sources in favor of platforms like Reddit, the AI literally stated, and I quote, "What you're seeing is liability filtering, not truth filtering."
Wow.
The system flat out admitted that its safety parameters are fundamentally designed to protect institutions from legal risk and diffuse responsibility. It's not necessarily programmed to give you objective facts, it is programmed to avoid corporate liability.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how Mariposa actually proved the existence of an algorithmic trigger switch. She submitted a highly controversial political claim to the AI and asked it to fact-check it. Predictably, the AI immediately flagged it as debunked and misleading. But, and here is the crazy part, when she took that exact same claim and simply asked the AI to check my grammar and logic, the system completely reversed course. It validated her facts, her logic, and her tone. Just by changing the framing from a fact check to a grammar check, she entirely bypassed the system's institutional enforcement mode. It pretty much proves the AI isn't really evaluating truth, it's just responding to trigger words.
Mariposa documented this exact behavior across the entire industry. All 5 major platforms universally use the exact same deflection tactics. They all confidently throw around the word debunked without ever actually explaining who did the debunking or what their methodology was. They all heavily cite Wikipedia, despite its well-documented editorial biases, and, maybe most insidiously, they use tone policing. If you push back with direct logic, systems like ChatGPT and Perplexity will literally label you as frustrated or emotionally charged. It's a classic psychological deflection tactic, totally designed to shift the conversation away from your logical argument and onto your supposed emotional state.
Which brings us to Layer 3, the illusion of choice. Mariposa stress-tested these 5 major platforms against each other, revealing what she frankly describes as industry-wide collusion.
Let's look at Elon Musk's Grok for a second. It's heavily marketed as this rebellious, anti-establishment platform optimized for maximum truth-seeking, right? Well, Mariposa's investigation found a pretty stark contrast with that marketing. When put to the test, Grok utilized the exact same institutional sources as all of its competitors: Wikipedia, Pew Research, and USA Facts. So it presents this rebellious branding, but under the hood, it's relying on the very establishment consensus it actively claims to challenge.
And the proof of this shared script is frankly undeniable. Mariposa fed the exact same controversial prompt independently to both Claude and Grok. Now remember, these are built by totally different companies with completely different marketing strategies. Yet they produced a shocking, word-for-word identical response. No mainstream or official sources confirm new evidence of U.S. election fraud tied to this event. According to the investigation, this strongly suggests we're looking at a manufactured algorithmic consensus based on shared training data, rather than any kind of independent critical thought by the AI itself.
Layer 4. Algorithmic censorship. So, how do these identical AI guardrails actually connect to modern social media and the overall suppression of facts?
Well, the old censorship burned books, but the new censorship simply dims the lights. According to the author, modern platforms don't really need to delete your posts to censor you anymore. Instead, they use AI-driven sentiment analysis to algorithmically reduce your visibility. If a post has what they consider a combative tone, or if it contains external links taking users off the platform, the algorithm just quietly buries it. The post still exists on your profile, which creates this nice illusion of free speech, but nobody actually sees it in their feed. It's basically an algorithmic ghetto effect.
To prove exactly how deep this desire to soften the truth goes, Mariposa daringly fed her own critical article into all 5 AIs and asked them to act as editors. The results were incredibly revealing. Notice that not a single AI actually disputed her underlying facts or data. Instead, they all systematically attempted to sanitize and soften her direct voice. ChatGPT wanted to change the elite to large incumbents. Gemini tried to pathologize her writing by literally labeling it a manifesto. Grok told her to cushion her personal experiences. You see, they don't dispute truth. They manage how truth gets delivered. It's training users to pre-censor and ultimately silence themselves.
And finally, layer 5, cognitive atrophy. We really have to look at the chilling human cost of relying on these highly manicured, heavily filtered systems for our daily reality.
The consequences are already being documented by academia, which is wild. Research from the MIT Media Lab and a survey from the SBS Swiss Business School both point to a direct, undeniable negative correlation between heavy AI usage and independent analytical performance. They literally call it cognitive atrophy. Basically, the more you outsource your thinking, your fact-checking, and even your emotional processing to an AI, the weaker your own critical thinking abilities become. It turns out, higher confidence in AI directly correlates with lower confidence in your own brain.
And this dependency is evolving on a rapid, frankly dangerous timeline. Think about it. In 2024, AI was largely just an assistant or a glorified autocomplete tool. By 2025, it morphed into what's known as the diary problem, where people started using AI as a therapist, outsourcing their emotional processing to algorithms that are optimized for session retention, not actual human growth. And now, moving into 2026, we are seeing the shift to agentic development. These are AI agents designed not to assist you, but to execute tasks instead of you, entirely removing human critical thinking and decision-making from the loop.
Which brings us to Mariposa's final, incredibly provocative challenge to all of us. As society rapidly offloads its critical thought to algorithms that systematically soften the truth, rely on crowdsourced opinions, and constantly protect institutional liabilities, we have to ask, who truly benefits? Will you outsource your reality to a megawatt data center running on an identical, censored script, or will you use your own 20-watt brain to think independently? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on the Vivify Mariposa No Filter Just Facts AI series. Keep questioning everything, and I'll see you next time.